Right, welcome everybody to another Hubcap Solutions mini hug lunch and learn. Thanks for taking some time out of your day to see what we have to say about tracking deals with custom statuses. Just as some housekeeping, I will say that I'm going to try and keep this presentation short to about 15 minutes and then just give you lots of time for questions at the end. And if we don't use all the time before we wrap up, we can just wrap up early, no problem. So when I'm talking about custom status properties, what I'm talking about is you can see I have this little snip out of HubSpot about someone's right sidebar showing associations, and it shows, hey, somebody has an application, Hubcap Solutions, and look, it's lagging in the contract sign stage. So it's spending too much time in contract sign. Now, you can use whatever statuses you want. You can use this to kind of label things however you want, but this is kind of how I conceived of it to be useful to you, is just a visual indicator of when something might need more attention in any sort of pipeline. So there are two ways to do this. So which way you choose will depend a little bit on what HubSpot tier you have and what you may or may not be using. So option one is using pipeline tags. And then you can just basically set up your pipeline tags to have little tags at the bottom and show, what the status of a record is. You might not want to, so you do need starter tier for that, at least, to have access to pipeline tags. Um, you might not want to use pipeline tags because you're using pipeline tags for something else. So just having status tags might clutter it up. If that's the case, you can definitely use a custom property like we're seeing here. But to use the custom property option, you're going to need a pro tier of HubSpot to have access to workflows to build that. So that's just a quick intro on the requirements. And then I'll just tell you a few of the benefits that I found of having a status property. So here we can see kind of a little snip of a pipeline and how we can see kind of different applications in the pipeline and their different statuses. So this one's on time, but this one I should probably look into and see if I can move it along because it's lagging in this contract sign stage. So one of the benefits is it makes it quick and easy to report on whether records need attention. And also it helps keep your team accountable. So not only can your team members see this and decide that they need to spend more time on any given record, their supervisors, their managers, their leaders can also see this and check in with them to make sure that records aren't falling through the cracks. So this can also replace email notifications. So what I have people ask for sometimes is like, oh, if it's been in contract signed for 4 days, send someone an email so that they know that they need to do something about that because it's been in that stage for too long. And I found that people get really good at ignoring those emails. So without kind of this visibility to everybody that your records might be in a stage too long or whatever you want to identify with the status property, um, the notifications tend not to be effective. And also, it pushes people outside of HubSpot because they get those notifications in their inboxes rather than getting them in HubSpot and forcing them to log into HubSpot to check the status of their records. So that's the quick benefits of status properties. We're going to go into kind of how to set up a status property now. If you have any questions at any point during this presentation, definitely drop them in the chat. Cody will either respond to you or he'll just shout and interrupt me with any questions. So Cody, do we have anything so far?
Nothing yet, but we are up to 7 folks. So welcome, Dory. Welcome, Justin. Welcome, Tori. Good to see you again. And good to see you, Samuel.
All right. Well, welcome everybody else. So far we've covered basically why you might
and
want
Austin
this.
does have a quick question.
Oh, yeah.
These are deal tags in the pipeline, correct? That's what we're talking about?
Yes, that is option one, is using deal tags in the pipeline. And you can use tags on any object that has a pipeline, not necessarily deals. So on your tickets, on your appointments, on your, basically whatever you can set up a pipeline for, you generally have the option to do tags. So yes, that is one option.
But we are going to go slightly beyond tags because tags have a limitation or two.
Yes, tags do have a quirky limitation. So I'll show you how to set that up probably on the next slide. So if you are looking at setting up a status property, where you want to start is by defining what your statuses are. So I generally use on time, lagging, and behind. I color code them because people love colors. And then just determining how much time in each pipeline stage should trigger the change to that status. So you can see here I have basically a little example pipeline of 4 stages. And I've decided, the time to lagging so if it sits in need identified for 14 days, it's lagging, 21 days, it's behind, and so on up to contract sent. So once you have that down, that's kind of setting up the foundation. Then you can determine whether you want to use tags or a custom property. So like we mentioned before, if you're already using tags for something else and you don't want this cluttering up your tags, custom property. If not, tags is a perfectly fine way to set this up. So using pipeline tags. The quirk to using pipeline tags is when you're setting up pipeline tags, you can't reference the pipeline stage when you're setting your filters on the tag. So if we look at our filter group here, basically I have it set up. So if it's in need identified for, that should be more than 14 days. This is the wrong screen snip, but if it's in need identified for more than 14 days, then we want to give it the lagging tag. But adding this need identified stage, I can't do it in pipelines. So I'm just going to pop over to HubSpot here to give you a bit of a live demo. We'll maybe leave the presentation behind for a little while. So I have this jobs pipeline, and you can see I have both versions of the custom tag here, the on time. So this is using the standard pipeline tags. And then this one's using option 2, the workflows. So if I pop over to my jobs pipeline and job tags, I can click manage my job tags to add new job tags. And then if I go add a tag and I want to create the lagging one, and I add a filter, if I go to job properties and search for stage, it just doesn't let me use stage as a filter. Strange decision by HubSpot. So if you are going to use tags, natural, like native tags, the way to do that is to create a segment or list, and then just use that to set the tag. So I've used the list here. And so if I pop on over to my lists, you can see I have my lagging and on-time list set up. So my on-time list basically has that filter of job pipeline stages, any of that I wasn't able to have with the kind of deal tags doing it directly. So if you are using deal tags, just be aware that you do need that little workaround of lists to power your tags because you can't refer to stages directly in tags for some reason. So that's basically the gist of how to set it up. You'll want one list per deal tag. And then in your list, you're going to have a group set for each stage. So if it's been in need identified for more than 14 days and less than 21 days, it's in the lagging stage. And if we pop back to our chart here, we can basically see that I'm using kind of these dates from the chart for each stage. So setting up a list with one filter group for each one of these columns is how we would set that up. So that kind of takes us through how to set up the tags for the deal tag option. Are there any questions on setting up the deal tag option?
Nothing in there quite yet, but like I say, feel free. Add anything that has popped up. And while I'm at it, hey, Grace, thanks for dropping in.
All right, perfect. So If deal tags doesn't work for you for whatever reason, you do have the option of setting this up via workflows as well. If you want to keep it kind of in its own separate property, you can definitely set it up via workflow. So I do have steps in the presentation on how to set that up as well, but we'll pop back to our demo here and we can take a look together. So that's my segments. So basically what we want to do is we want to set up a workflow for each status. So we're going to have a lagging status workflow, a behind status workflow, and an on-time status workflow. And the lagging and the behind, or whatever stages you choose, will be very similar. I normally set one and then clone it and make the adjustments. So it's a fairly simple workflow. It just has the one step of set the status on that record to whatever the status should be. And then the other part of it is setting up our enrollment triggers properly. So what we want to do is basically kind of the same as we did with that list of date entered current stage is more than 14 days ago, and it's currently in the need identified stage. So again, that's just using, if we go back to our little chart that we helpfully set out, these stages and these amounts of time. So if you're doing this on any object other than deals, I think maybe tickets, you may need to set up kind of a date entered current stage property as well to kind of automatically populate, because on some objects, it's not a default property. So it is on deals, but not so much on other properties. So you may need to do a little bit of pre-setup to create this property to facilitate this. But basically, I just have each group, again, for each stage and its appropriate delay. And then one thing to also remember is to turn on the re-enrollment. So when I turn on the re-enrollment, I want it to be based on, yeah, you can have all the things checked off, I believe, not just the one thing, but yeah, just making sure that you have kind of all your dates set up, and then re-enrollment is on, because it will go through this workflow at each stage. So you want to make sure that it's able to do that. So that is the lagging status. Once you have that set up, you could easily clone it. And then we just need to pop in and adjust the dates. And the edit record to be status behind instead of lagging. Then that makes the setup on that pretty quick and easy. When it comes to on-time status, you do have an option to add here. So the one thing about on-time status is considering what you want it to do if you're in a closed stage. So you might want to leave status there. So it's the status of the most recent stage before it's closed. So you have some historical data on whether a lot of deals hit, or a lot of whatever record you're looking at hit the behind stage and then get closed, so they kind of get stale and old, or whether they close for other reasons and they close in an on-time status. So you might choose to keep that data, or you might choose to clear it because it's not especially valuable and people can find it confusing. So either way, that choice is totally up to you guys. But if you are going to clear that status in the closed stage, you're going to need just a branch to make sure that you're doing that. So again, we're going to set up our enrollment triggers, and that's just including any of the pipeline stages that we are setting a status for, and also including the closed stage or stages. And then again, under settings, we're going to want all our re-enrollments on to make sure that this can go through multiple times. So each time it goes into a new pipeline stage, it's reset to on time. And then to manage kind of having a different action if it's in a closed stage, I just have a quick branch here. So if it's in an open stage, set status to on time. If it's in a closed stage, clear status. And then I'm a fan of error handling. So if somebody adds a new stage to this pipeline and doesn't tell me, send an error to me to let me know. So that's kind of the quick how to set up a workflow to manage a property version of a status property. So that kind of concludes what a status property is, or how a couple options on how to set up a custom status property, and how that might be valuable to kind of create more transparency within your team. Are there any follow-up questions?
Nothing in the chat quite yet. So while people might be typing them out, I will ask you a question. When you're setting up the property that you're going to use for your status property, is that just a standard drop-down select swap property, or are there any other settings in that drop-down property that you're going to want to set?
Oh, that's a good question. As a general rule, yes, it is a standard drop-down property. The one thing that you did see me do is set up, and this is kind of new. I think this has been out for probably a few months now, so you probably run into it already. But when you're doing drop-down properties and multiple select properties in HubSpot, you can basically add the colors to them now. So again, this is relatively new. I think sometime in the last 6 months they gave you this option. So just on the option highlight display mode, default is no colors, text with colored dot. You can see it just shows the dot in the example. And then I've selected this one because it is the most colorful and people like colors. So that's just a really useful kind of feature that HubSpot came out with not too long ago to add a little bit more visual distinction to kind of multi-select properties and drop-down properties in general. So good call out, Cody. That is something that I did want to mention to make sure that everyone knows that colors are now an option. So color code your drop-downs to your heart's content.
And I'll springboard off of that one because I think, Austin, speaking to your kind of question if these are for deal tags in the pipeline, correct? Lisa, she definitely identified the fact that, yeah, because of that one weird pipeline stage limitation, the status tags in the traditional sense didn't quite work. But also, I like these properties with some color coding because you can make them more visible than tags. Like a lot of times people want a tag that's visible that you can put in an overview tab or someplace that you can have it other than just kind of in the board view of the deal pipeline. So this allows you to kind of do that, add that kind of visibility to the tag view, but to do it in different places. So there's definitely still a place for tags, but this just allows you to spread the color around a little bit more. All right. Well, nothing else has bubbled up. So that is the mini hug. Since we've got another minute or two, I'll give would you like to sign us off, Lisa?
Oh, yeah, I'll just say a couple more things. So thanks everybody for showing up. I do hope that you guys found some value in kind of seeing a quick application of how to use those colorful multi-select properties and kind of a different way to think about creating more visibility in your pipelines to your users and to their managers. So I really hope that this was at least, it wasn't the most complicated user group and most complicated thing to present, but I hope it got some of those creative juices flowing on how you might be able to apply some of the things that you have seen today. So thanks everybody for turning up, and Cody will have a little bit more of an outro.
Yeah. Just wanted to throw it out there. I know a couple of you, Tori, Austin, I know you guys are repeat offenders at our mini hug user group. So we hope you like this short format approach. And also we are Hubcap Solutions. Lisa and I are we're a two-person hubcap shop based up here in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. That's why we run the Western Canada, HubSpot user group. But like I say, we are just a HubSpot partner. So if you guys ever do happen to have, need somebody to throw some eyes on your HubSpot account or need an extra set of hands to be there in and support you on that HubSpot journey, we are always happy to do it. Of course, we're always happy to have our brain picked, but particularly by members of our user group. So with that, expect some LinkedIn connection requests if we're not already connected. And we will, hopefully talk to you guys at the next user group. Keep an eye out. I'm thinking about doing it on duplicate detection. So, all right. Take care.